Korea Center, who prepared this wonderful event today. Thank you also to Director Cassie Vidal of U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and also today's presenters for joining us. Today's event is being held in a room named after the great inventor Thomas Edison. Although Edison is most famous as an inventor, he was also an innovative entrepreneur who founded the Edison Electric Light Company, which manufactured a variety of advanced electric products for its day. I'll tell you about a story about Edison and Korea in the 19th century. In 1887, the Edison Company was responsible for one of the earliest scientific exchange between Korea and the United States by bringing Korea its first steam-powered electric generator. The first time it was used, the water went through the steam turbine just as it was supposed to, before being returned to the pond it had come from. Unfortunately, the water was still boiling hot, and when it was returned to the pond, all of the carp, fish in the pond were killed. So Koreans had never seen electricity before, and they didn't like it. Understandably, they saw the many dead fishes as an ominous sign in the future. However, almost a century and a half later, as anyone who's seen the light of Seoul's skyline can attest, that fear didn't last. Today, Korea is a global leader in innovative industries, including automobiles, semiconductors, display, and batteries. Korean companies invest in building factories for EV batteries, producing solar cells, and wind towers here in the United States. We are recognized as one of the top 5 powerhouses in intellectual property, also known as IP5, along with the US, Europe, Japan, and China. The Korean Intellectual Property Office recently established the Digital Convergence Examination Bureau and the Semiconductor Examination Task Force to deal with an increasing number of domestic and foreign patent filings related to the state-of-art technologies. Currently, the US receives the largest number of annual foreign IP applications from Korean companies, with about 37,000 patent applications filed every year. Simultaneously, Korea has the largest number of annual foreign IP applications from the US, with about 18,000 patent applications filed every year. Together, these numbers show the importance of IP to our bilateral cooperation. As Korean companies expand their presence here in the United States, we know that the number of intellectual property will likely increase. Although our aim is always to prevent IP disputes by ensuring that every company establishes a strong patent and trademark portfolio. If a dispute becomes unavoidable, our embassy, IP-DESKs, and IP experts are available to help the companies involved solve the issue. This year marks 70th anniversary of the Korea-US alliance, and through a decade of partnership, our relationship has strengthened. During the President Yoon's successful state visit in April, he and President Biden announced a commitment to deepen people-to-people ties and educational cooperation for future generations in the STEM field. They promised to improve human resources exchanges and expand joint research and development in order to strengthen our joint scientific and technological innovation. To give one example of this cooperation, the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, KAIST, and New York University just launched an artificial intelligence research partnership initiative. So by expanding our joint R&D in STEM field in this way, our cooperation in IP will increase exponentially. Last month, during NYU Digital Vision Forum, President Yoon laid out his 5 fundamental principles of Digital Bill of Rights to define the direction of our new digital order. These principles include protecting rights in digital environment, ensuring fair access to digital opportunity, securing a reliable digital society, and promotion of creative digital innovation and human welfare. These advances in digital technologies, including artificial intelligence, will change human life in ways that we cannot anticipate today. As new inventions bring humanity into a new era, and the spirit of innovation continue to thrive, the intellectual property system remains as important as ever. At a time when economic and technological security are increasingly critical, I'm confident that this forum will strengthen Korea-US alliance by helping our IP agencies and exporters respond better to issues and share practical research trends. So I wish you great success in today's forum, and thank you again for inviting me. Thank you.
Now, I'm pleased to introduce our next host, Commissioner Dr. In-Sil Lee. She currently holds the position of Commissioner at the Korean Intellectual Property Office. We are honored to have her join us virtually from South Korea. Commissioner Dr. Lee will also provide her welcoming remark for today's event. Let's extend a warm welcome to Commissioner Dr. Lee.
On behalf of Korean Intellectual Property Office, let me send you my warm welcome to the second Korea-US IP Forum and PCT Roundtable. Let me also extend my deep appreciation to Ambassador Jo Yeon-dong, IP Attaché in Hyun-seok, and all the other colleagues at the Korean Embassy in the US, IP-DESK and PCT Korea Channel for successfully preparing this event. I also should not forget to say thank you to the Undersecretary and Director KOIPA and colleagues of USPTO and all the speakers for your precious contributions today. This IP Forum was born on October 28, 2022, thanks to the passion and devotion of the IP-related organizations, patent attorneys of our 2 countries, and IP officers from Korea-based companies doing business in the US. This forum gives a meaningful opportunity to share our ideas, thoughts, and help to keep our IP systems agile and responsive to technological advancement. At the same time, I believe it also is a valuable opportunity for many Korea-based companies doing business in the US market to know better about how the local IP system works. And this year is all the more special, marking the 70th anniversary of the establishment of Korea-US Alliance. The Korean Embassy has prepared this forum together as a co-hosted KIPO, whose participation has magnified the significance of this forum. In this April, I attended Korea-US Cluster Roundtable, which was chaired by President of Korea during his state visit to the US. At the roundtable, the experts emphasized the importance of the IP right in protecting and commercializing competitive technologies in our 2 countries. As you know, the US ranked the 2nd and Korea 4th in terms of volume of the patent filing. And we are 2 members of the 5 largest IP offices of the world, called as the IP5. This means our bilateral cooperation holds great significance in many ways. KIPO and USPTO have worked closely together for many years to make the prosecution process more effective and efficient through many ways, such as patent prosecution highway and collaborative search examination. In this June, when I met Director KOIPA on the occasion of IP-5 annual meeting in Hawaii, we signed a new memorandum of understanding on comprehensive cooperation in 11 years since 2012 to ensure that our future cooperation will better reflect the changes in the IP system. In addition, KIPO and USPTO are promoting the cooperation on leveraging IP in addressing the climate change, which has been led by the USPTO since the IP5 meeting in this June. Over the coming years, KIPO and USPTO will remain as close partners to one another, implementing various cooperative projects in the area of data and information sharing, patent examination on cutting-edge technologies like AI, and patent clarification on clean technology as a part of the effort to combat climate change. I believe that our cooperation will contribute to the successful implementation of many of the initiatives of our two offices have pushed forward with. Distinguished delegates and ladies and gentlemen, we now live in the time of technological convergence, and in order for KIPO and USPTO to run a more effective and user-friendly IP system and to realize the dynamic IP ecosystem, I think it's important to use the opportunity like today where we can share ideas with listen to you who are the professional and expert in IP. I hope today's IP forum will turn out to be a valuable occasion to expand our knowledge and produce brilliant ideas for the cooperation in IP in our two countries to create a productive circle of innovation. I do wish I could have been with you today in person, but still I'm grateful I can greet you in a remote way. I wish you all the best. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Lee. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Ms. Kathy Vidal. Director Vidal will join us via Zoom to deliver congratulatory speech for today's event. Please extend a warm welcome to Director Vidal.
Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador of the Republic of Korea, Commissioner Dr. Lee, and distinguished speakers and guests. On behalf of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, I want to thank the Embassy of the Republic of Korea and the Korean Intellectual Property Office, KIPO, for hosting this celebration of our long-standing cooperation on intellectual property. I am honored to participate in this program, and I wish I could be with you in person. As I deliver my remarks, you will see how closely they resemble the remarks just given by Commissioner Lee. She and I have been working very closely together. President Joseph Biden and President Yoon Suk-yeol commemorated the 70th anniversary of our nation's alliance on April 26, 2023. At the commemoration, the two presidents identified many areas where global action is critical. One area they mentioned, the climate crisis, particularly resonated with me. The USPTO and KIPO, together with other major intellectual property offices, as you've heard referred to as the IP5, have been working collaboratively on efforts to make sure that intellectual property is deployed in the service of addressing the climate crisis, to make sure that we not only incentivize innovations to solve the crisis, but that we work to bring those innovations to impact. In June, I had the privilege of hosting the Sustainable Innovation Dialogue, a program that brought members of the innovation community together to share firsthand perspectives about what patent offices are doing and can do to further support and incentivize innovation. Let me just share 3 takeaways from that dialogue. One, a statistic that was quoted at the time was that half of the emission reductions that will be needed to reach net zero by 2050 will come from technologies that are not yet commercialized. I was just in Europe last week, and EPO said that number was more like 65%. Whatever the number, this is an issue we have to solve for. We are working across U.S. government and across borders with urgency to find and commercialize those solutions. 2, in order to get to a place where we can reach zero emissions, we need to bring everyone into the innovation ecosystem. One of the USPTO's priorities is to ensure and promote access to the innovation ecosystem. We need more entrepreneurship and more innovation from those not traditionally represented in the IP ecosystem. And to do that, we need to reach them where they are. In June, Commissioner Lee and I participated in a fireside chat and discussed the challenges that women entrepreneurs face and how to effectively increase the number of women in our innovation ecosystem. We look forward to expanding our work with KOIPA and with other IP offices to promote inclusive innovation. 3, innovation is the soul of a company. A complete and strong IP system is essential to protect innovation and to make sure that people invest in that innovation so we can bring it to market. Successfully addressing the global crisis will depend in part on technological advances and on ensuring that the intellectual property system is accessible to all. But it will also hinge on robust and reliable intellectual property protection, and all of us working together to make sure IP is used to ensure great ideas get off the shelf and to the market. In June, the USPTO and KOIPA signed a new Memorandum of Understanding, as Commissioner Lee mentioned, on cooperation, which embraces and expands our already existing phenomenal cooperative relationship. Our cooperation is broad-based and covers a range of areas, including work-sharing tools and initiatives for international filings, and the enforcement of intellectual property and the examination of applications to obtain patents, among other things. We cooperate both bilaterally and in various multilateral forums. As we commemorate the 70th anniversary of the United States-Korea Alliance, I am honored to reaffirm our commitment to enhancing collaboration through bilateral cooperation with KOIPA. Thank you and enjoy your sessions.
Thank you very much, Director Vidal. This marks the commencement of our first session. Our very first speaker is Mr. Hyun-Suk Lim, serving as the Intellectual Property Counselor at the Korean Embassy. Mr. Lim will talk about the intellectual property policy of Korea and the crucial IP cooperation between Korea and the United States. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Lim.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to see you all today. My job as an intellectual property attaché is to promote mutual cooperation between Korea and the US in the IP field. Today, I will talk about IP policy of Korea and the IP cooperation between the two countries. What is intellectual property? Intellectual property is considered property just like real property or personal property that we are familiar with. The difference is that real property and personal property are tangible but limited, whereas intellectual property is intangible and limitless. Anyone who can have a new and innovative idea can obtain intellectual property rights. Everything that we see around today is result of somebody's innovation. Gunpowder, compasses, steam engines have changed the dynamics of national development, while penicillin, television, the internet, and cell phone have dramatically changed the quality of human life. Let me talk about the brief history and the current status of the IP field of Korea, in Korea. The 1960s was the early period of industrialization in Korea, and this was when Korea first introduced the golden IP system. In the 1970s and 80s, Korean economy was boosted with heavy and chemical industries and start of semiconductor industries. In 1977, Korean Intellectual Property Office, KOIPA, was established and enhanced IP system in accordance with international standard. In the 1990s, Korean companies focused on high-tech industries, and companies like Samsung, LG, Hyundai grew into world-class level. Korea encouraged domestic R&D activities and patent applications grew in volume. With the increased importance of IP, the Korean Patent Court and IP trial and appeal board were established. After the 2000s, not only technologies but also Korean produced culture such as K-pop, K-drama, and K-movies became to be beloved around the world. Thus, Korea put more focus on IP protection. Korea is regarded as a country which effectively used intellectual property in the process of economic development. This graph shows the relationship between economic growth and the number of IP applications of Korea between 1960 and 2015. The red line represents patent applications, the green line represents trademark applications, and the blue bar shows the GDP. As you can see, there is a very close correlation among these indexes. The correlation coefficient is calculated at 0.98 between GDP and the number of patent applications in Korea. Korea now ranks as the fourth country, both in the number of patent applications and in the number of PCT applications. Korea is also ranked the sixth country in the World Intellectual Property Organization's Global Innovation Index. Korean government's basic concept of the intellectual property strategy is to establish a virtuous cycle for innovation. This cycle consists of IP creation, protection, acquisition, and utilization, which in turn can foster economic development through IP. Korea's Presidential Council on IP, established on the ground of IP Framework Act, formulates the master plan for national IP and its action plans, and creates policies for promoting the creation, protection, and utilization of IP. Vision of the Council is to realize an innovation-oriented nation based on IP. Its goals are first to secure competitiveness for core IP in national strategic area. Second, to sustain IP-based national innovation-led growth and foster global hidden champions. And third, to prevent IP infringement in the digital economy and build IP protection capabilities. Korean Intellectual Property Office is in charge of implementing actual intellectual property policy. With its automated system, dedicates to improve the expertise and quality of its work and services in examination and trials of intellectual property. KIPO integrates scientific approaches and new technology into IP administration and operation, promotes creation and utilization of IP rights that will spur the innovation-driven growth and give fairer protection to IP rights. The Korean government is reinforcing the protection of intellectual property rights. KIPO's Special Judicial Police increased its staff in charge of investigating IPR infringement or technology theft and strengthened the cooperation system with related governmental bodies such as Customs Office, the prosecution, the police, local governments, and the National Intelligence Service. Korea is expanding international cooperation in the intellectual property field, including bilateral cooperation between Korea and the US. To improve a country's IP system and effectively implement plans of development, international cooperative initiatives are a necessity. KIPO is involved with many international organizations in endeavors to increase the strength of international cooperative relations. KIPO is in line with major international cooperation efforts such as IP5 in the patent field, TM5 in trademark, and ID5 in industrial design. Of particular importance is the IP5, which is composed of the KIPO, the USPTO, European Patent Office, Japan Patent Office, and China National Intellectual Property Administration. These 5 offices altogether receive about 85% of all global patent filings. Further, KIPO has led cooperative relations with many international organizations such as World Intellectual Property Organization, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, and Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The IP5 offices work together to eliminate the duplication of work between the offices, to enhance patent examination efficiency as well as quality and guarantee the stability of the patent rights. The vision of IP5 cooperation is to harmonize patent practices and procedures and to provide seamless access to patent information to promote an efficient, cost-effective, and user-friendly international patent landscape. KIPO is also closely collaborating with the USPTO. During the KIPO-USPTO bilateral heads meeting in this June, KIPO and USPTO signed an updated MOU for the cooperation between the 2 offices. The cooperation includes recognizing the important role of intellectual property protection and enforcement to promote a strong national and global economy, encouraging investment in innovation, fostering an entrepreneurial spirit, creating the jobs necessary for long-term sustainable growth, and strengthening IP systems. But patent system is not just about the patent rights. Patent information coming from all around the world provides various perspectives and knowledge about technology trends. Additionally, we can use patent information to develop a so-called appropriate technology to meet the needs of local conditions in the developing world. KOIPA installed a new oil extractor in Indonesia and new grease separation system in Vietnam using technologies from expired and published open patent information. KOIPA also developed brands for them to create sustainable growth for local businesses by helping people to develop ideas from inception to commercialization. This kind of projects also have helped to increase awareness of IP in many countries. Let me introduce to you the spirit of IP sharing.
Korea is able to pass on its experience in economic development and provides many lessons to developing countries. My heart races whenever I think of Korea. I feel confident that we can do it too, just like the Koreans did. After the devastation of the Korean War, the Republic of Korea was able to successfully develop its economy through its hard work and foreign aid. With its unique experience in ascending from a recipient country to a donor country in a relatively short time, the Republic of Korea is now acting as a bridge between the developed and developing world. The Korean Intellectual Property Office, also known as KOIPA, and the Korea Invention Promotion Association, also known as KOIPA, designed the IP sharing project to promote the economic development and welfare of countries in need through the utilization of intellectual property in appropriate technologies and brand development. In 2010, starting with a project in Chad, KOIPA utilized patent information and provided various appropriate technologies to many countries, including Nepal, Myanmar, Papua New Guinea, Guatemala, Philippines, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Having high-quality goods does not always result in sufficient income. So KOIPA and KOIPA have also conducted brand projects after carrying out demand surveys and market analyses in countries like Myanmar, Ghana, Indonesia, Philippines, Bolivia, Cambodia, and Mongolia. Along with the collaboration of the National Office of Intellectual Property of Vietnam, as well as an urban sewage and development company, KOIPA supplied an eco-friendly, affordable, decentralized wastewater treatment system by using patents from both countries. My restaurant is currently using the decentralized wastewater treatment system from KOIPA. It's very easy to use and operate, and it's less expensive in comparison to existing technologies, as the installation costs are quite low. This system is now in use at various restaurants, houses, and governmental properties. Using publicly accessible patents, KOIPA and KOIPA have developed an oil extractor for patchouli, the main regional product of the Aceh province in Indonesia. The patchouli business in the Aceh province of Indonesia is very important. It is difficult for patchouli farmers to extract oil. Through KOIPA's AT project, these farmers will start to earn more profit once they start selling more higher quality oil at a higher price. KOIPA conducted an AT project to promote an increase in income for the members of the Mongolian Wool Union through the development of an eco-dye extracting and dyeing machine. This project was then supplemented with a brand development scheme for sales promotion. Korea and Mongolia have secured intellectual property rights and established a cooperative relationship that lays the groundwork for a successful business. We are very appreciative of the cooperation we receive from Korea through the AT project. This project disseminates the importance of innovative activities across the nation On top of that, KIPO and WIPO showed us a model for business success that can help Mongolian inventions get on the path to commercialization through the AT competition that was held in Mongolia. The guidance from KIPO and cooperation of WIPO on these projects make the results of the project more focused and effective. KIPO holds educational programs via WIPO's Korea Funds in Trust in order to share its intellectual property with countries who request it. KIPO has supported inventors, university students, and patent examiners in other countries by giving them customized education that will allow them to go back to their home countries and become instructors in building a model for economic development based on intellectual property. KIPO strives to establish a chain of growth that connects the supply of appropriate technology with the strengthening of ability and sustainable growth for the benefit of countries in need. In accordance with this, as KIPO is a global leader in the field of intellectual property, KIPO will contribute to the greater good by sharing its own past experiences. KIPO and KIPA, with the continuous help of its people, aim to give its support for the prosperity of mankind.
In order to increase IP awareness worldwide, KIPO developed and disseminated a diverse array of global IP education contents aimed for children, university students, and businesses. With various experience, Korea is expanding the scope of international cooperation in IP. I hope Korea and the US can cooperate to spread the spirit of innovation globally, and I wish this Korea-US forum can contribute to that vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lim. Our next speaker is Mr. Charles Kim, serving as the Director of the Office of Petitions at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Mr. Kim will be sharing insights on USPTO artificial intelligence initiatives. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Kim.
So thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Charles Kim, and I currently serve as the Director of the Office of Petitions. You may be wondering why the Director of the Office of Petitions is here to talk about AI. Well, in addition to that role, I also lead the USPTO's AI and Emerging Technology Working Group. This working group is made up of AI specialists from across the agency and has been involved in several initiatives over the last few years. And I'll discuss some of those initiatives today. But before I begin, I did want to thank IP Counselor Hyun-Suk Lim, as well as KOIPA and the Embassy of the Republic of Korea, the New York IP-DESK, and PCT Korea Center for inviting me to speak at today's forum. AI is a priority for Director Vidal, and as you can imagine, the AI teams at the USPTO have been very busy the last few months, working on various initiatives. Today, I'll discuss 3 of those initiatives, including our work to analyze some trends in AI patenting in the US, our AI and IP policy efforts, and the AI tools at the PTO, and how we're leveraging AI technologies to enhance our operations. So with regards to trends in US AI patenting, back in October of 2020, we published a report titled Inventing AI. And this report examines the presence of AI in US patents and published applications from 1976 to 2018. Specifically, the report looks at AI's growth over time, the spread of AI across specific technology areas, the geographic dispersion of AI-related patents, and the distribution of AI patents granted to individual inventor patentees and organizations. One of the key takeaways from the report is shown on this slide, and that is AI is increasingly important for invention and is diffusing broadly across technologies, inventor patentees, organizations, and geography. So for purposes of this report, AI was defined as an invention that includes one or more of the 8 component technologies that you see on the slide here. Now, some of these technologies may be more well-known. For example, machine learning is a very well-known type of AI. I think when many people think of AI, it usually involves some type of machine learning systems. Natural language processing is also another well-known component technology. Many of the generative AI systems that are in use today, like ChatGPT, rely on natural language processing. So again, for purposes of this report, an AI invention is an invention that includes one or more of these 8 component technologies. I did want to mention that we at the PTO, we actually used AI, specifically machine learning, to identify AI patents and publications. So in other words, we used AI to find AI. So the next few slides show the data from the Inventing AI report. It's actually been updated. So I mentioned the Inventing AI report goes up to 2018. The next few slides actually include data up to 2020. So we included 2 more years of data. And this specific slide shows that AI applications have increased by more than 150% from 2002 to 2020. During that same time period, out of all of the applications that we had at the PTO, 9% of those applications contained AI in 2002. And that increased to 18% in 2020. So this chart shows the diffusion of AI across patent technology subclasses. If you see the green line, the green solid line at the top, it shows that patents containing AI spread from about 10% of the technology subclasses in 1976 to about 50% of the subclasses by 2020. And by technology subclasses, I'm referring to the CPC classification system that's currently used at the PTO to classify our applications and our patents. The lines below that green solid line shows the breakdown for each of the 8 component technologies that I just discussed. So this map shows the concentration of AI inventor patentees in the US from 1976 to 2000. And as you can see, AI inventor patentees tend to be concentrated in larger cities as well as established technology hubs. You can see some green in the Northeast, some green in California, as well as Florida and parts of the Northwest. This map shows, again, the same information, AI inventor patentees, but during the period from 2001 to 2020. So if you kind of see the 2 back to back, you can see that AI inventor patentees are diffusing widely across US states and counties, including regions such as Oregon and North Dakota. This next chart shows countries where assignees or owners of US AI patents are located. And not surprisingly, many of the owners of US AI patents are located in the United States. And then the next remaining 9 countries are shown on this graph. I do want to point out that this chart shows the owners of US AI patents. It does not reflect the number of owners of AI patents that are issued from other IP offices. So the previous chart showed the aggregate view, right? So the total number. This chart, these 2 charts here show how things are changing over time. So the chart on the left shows the increase of US owners of US AI patents, and the solid blue line represents the US, and the lines below that represent the other countries. It's hard to see the other countries on the left chart, so the chart on the right actually removes the US, so you can see the remaining 9 countries. And as you can see, it might be hard to see from the graph here, but the top 3 countries are actually all in Asia. So you have Japan in purple, you have South Korea in blue, and you have China in red. All right, so the next few slides cover some of our AI and IP policy efforts. So last year, in June of last year, under the leadership of Director Vidal, the USPTO launched our AI and Emerging Technologies Partnership. This partnership supports the USPTO's goal of promoting and incentivizing innovation, especially in critical technologies such as AI, by bringing together diverse stakeholders, including scientists, engineers, attorneys, academics, and entrepreneurs, to share perspectives, experiences, and insights on the intersection of IP, AI, and emerging technologies. Since its launch last year, we've held 4 partnership events. Our first event was held in June of last year. It was a fully virtual event. During that event, we had Dr. Lynn Parker from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy come speak about the National AI Initiative. We had a presentation about the Inventing AI report that I just discussed. We also had some panel discussions on the subject matter eligibility as well as the disclosure requirements of AI inventions, as well as a panel discussion on AI inventorship. Our second partnership event was held at our Silicon Valley regional office, and that was held in September of last year. And that event focused on the intersection of AI and biotechnologies, and some of the issues that may arise as a result of the convergence of those two technologies. Our third event was held in February in collaboration with our Texas regional office. And that third event focused on AI-driven innovation. So AI-driven innovation isn't necessarily innovation to AI technologies itself, but it's the use of AI to further drive other technologies. Our fourth event was actually held very recently. It was held last month at our headquarters here in Alexandria, Virginia. And this event focused on some of the AI tools that we have at the PTO. We had a demo of our AI search tool, as well as some of the other AI tools, which I'll be discussing further in the subsequent slides. We also discussed at this fourth event how USPTO's data is being used to further AI research and development. So building on our partnership efforts, this past February, I think it was actually on Valentine's Day, we issued a request for comments on AI and inventorship. And this request for comments came on the heels of a decision by the Federal Circuit last year, in which the Federal Circuit held that an AI machine cannot be an inventor of a patent application. That involved a case that was actually filed at the PTO where an AI machine named Davis was listed as a sole inventor. The PTO issued a decision explaining that under the current US patent laws that inventorship is limited to natural persons. That decision was challenged at the EDBA right across the street, and then it was appealed to the Federal Circuit. And last year, the Federal Circuit affirmed the lower court as well as the PTO's position that an AI machine cannot be an inventor. By extension, I think it's fair to say that the holding also applies to joint inventorship, so AI cannot be a joint inventor. So that case, it's actually Thaler versus Vidal. That case clearly answers the question of whether an AI machine can be an inventor. And the answer is no. Right? And it also answers the question of whether an AI can be a joint inventor. Again, the answer is no. However, the decision does explain that that court is not addressed or is not confronted with this question of whether inventions that are created by humans with the assistance of AI, whether those inventions are patentable. So I think it's fair to say that as a result of that decision, there is some level of uncertainty around inventorship when AI is used in the invention process. And as a result of that uncertainty, the PTO issued this request for comment in February and posed several questions that are directed to some of that uncertainty left behind as a result of the Thaler decision. We set a 90-day comment period for this request for comment, so we published in February. The comment period closed on May 15th. During that comment period, we had 2 listening sessions, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And based on the written comments that we received, and we received about 70 written comments, as well as the comments that we received from the listening sessions, one common theme that arose was that there's a need for additional clarity around inventorship. As a result of that Thaler case, there's a need for for additional clarity. And in response to the feedback that we've received, the USPTO is currently taking concrete steps to provide that additional clarity. I can't get into the specifics because nothing has been published at this point, but we are planning to take some next steps, and you'll likely be seeing something in the near future, in the coming weeks. There is a lot of interest around inventorship under the patent laws. There's also a lot of interest around authorship under the copyright laws. There's interest in the public, there's blogs about these issues, but there's also interest in Congress as well. And one example of that is last October, Senators Tillis and Coons issued a letter to the director of the USPTO, as well as the director of the Copyright Office, to work together to establish a national commission on AI to look into issues such as inventorship and authorship. And speaking of copyright issues, the US Copyright Office just recently, this past August, they issued their own request for comment or notice of inquiry, and they're seeking input on a wide range of issues around AI and copyright. And those, the areas that they're seeking input are shown on the slide. For purposes of, given the time that we have, I'm not going to be able to get into much detail, but more information can be found in the Federal Register notice. I do want to point out that although we are the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, by statute, the USPTO also advises the President through the Secretary of Commerce on all IP matters, including copyright issues. And we work very closely with our counterparts at the Copyright Office. Me and my team, we actually have a monthly meeting with the AI team at the Copyright Office. All right, so the next couple of slides relate to some of the AI tools that we have at the PTO. So on the patent side, we're incorporating AI in two critical areas of patent examination, and that is search and classification. With regards to search, performing a complete prior art search is critically important to the patent examination process, and it helps to ensure that the USPTO issues patent rights that are reliable and predictable. However, the exponential growth of prior art, due to the tremendous pace of technological innovation, has made it increasingly more challenging for our examiners to quickly find relevant prior art. To meet this challenge, we've built AI into our patent search tools to assist examiners in finding potential prior art early in the examination process. Since its implementation, our examiners have conducted over 1.3 million searches using our AI search tools. In addition to US prior art, our AI search tools also work on patent documents from over 60 different countries, so our examiners are able to search relevant foreign prior art as well. In addition to search, as I mentioned, we're also using AI for classification to classify the hundreds of thousands of applications that we receive every year. On the trademark side, we're using AI in similar ways. We're using it to help our trademark attorneys search for similar trademarks, as well as for classification purposes as well. One of the things that we demoed at the fourth partnership event that I just mentioned is our AI trademark virtual assistant. And that AI-based tool answers many of the common questions that we get when people are searching on our trademarks websites. Just recently, I think earlier this week, we launched the patents version of that tool. So we now have a patents virtual assistant that, again, can help answer some common questions that we get. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. Our next speaker is Mr. Timothy Wang, serving as a Chief Executive Officer at Fiscal Note. Mr. Wang will be sharing valuable insights on the subject of intellectual property in the light of technological advancements. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Wang.
Thank you, everybody, for the gracious invitation. I don't have any very fun slides and statistics to talk about, but they did tell me to come up here and talk a little bit about the role of intellectual property, particularly between the United States and Korea, and the startup ecosystem as we've seen over the course of the last couple of months. So I think that one of the things that we've seen over the course of the last 4 or 5 years has been a tremendous explosion in startup activity and venture capital dollars invested into the ecosystem. So, of course, FiscalNote is one example. Recently, our company went public on the New York Stock Exchange last year, and that was in conjunction with a variety of investors, both from the United States and from Korea, that have been able to continue to build our business and really attract a really heavy level of investment because of the strong partnerships we've fostered over the last couple of years. And so, with that, I think that one of the things that we've been thinking a lot about at FiscalNote, as well as in the broader startup ecosystem, is of course the importance of intellectual property as we think about our own businesses and our expansion capabilities. And you think about all the things that we just talked about in the previous talk, from artificial intelligence to entertainment and content to biotechnology to electric vehicles to semiconductors. The entirety of the future of the economic ecosystem over the course of the next several years is going to be dependent on fostering very strong kind of reliance on intellectual property as the basis for kind of a core asset. So, one of the, as we think about sort of the relationship, for instance, between the South Korean startup ecosystem and the American ecosystem, is that, among North Asia in particular, South Korea drew the highest level of venture capital dollars of any other country in the region. Second and third only to China and India. And Korea continues to see increased levels of foreign direct investment, particularly from American venture capitalists and foreign venture capitalists that are really seeking out those returns. So what exactly are those investors looking at? What types of businesses are they looking at overall? And the reality is that I think we all see these examples every single day. We see examples like Hybe, that just went public about 4 years ago. Creators of BTS and other kind of great musical artists. Companies like Moderna that have collaborated with biologics manufacturers in South Korea to actually again go public and of course deliver their blockbuster drug 3 years ago. Companies like Tesla that rely very heavily on the relationship with manufacturers like LG and others who continuously invest in the ecosystems. And so underlying all of this is that the South Korean government has made a very strong commitment to the venture capital industry. They've committed over the course of the next several years that 10% of all state foreign investment will go directly into early stage venture capital. And that's a really strong reflection of the fact that Korea, among the OECD, is the #1 spender of R&D as a percentage of GDP. And you see that reflected straight through every part of the ecosystem, from the very large corporations that have made very, very large commitments over the course of the last several years, and of course a range of different industries from semiconductors to electric vehicles, as well as the explosion of startups that have happened over the course of the last several years or so. And so there's sort of two things to understand from a startup perspective, right? So the first thing is the rate at which founders jump into a particular market and ecosystem. So particularly around very hot areas and industries like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, climate, culture, content, and entertainment, we are seeing an accelerating pace of founders jumping into these ecosystems. And why is that the case? Partially driven by the fact that intellectual property and the creation of that intellectual property, the protection of that intellectual property is driving a high level of investor confidence and startup confidence and founder confidence and executive confidence, who are committing their time, their talents, their efforts, and capital to actually drive the success of their businesses. And so when you think about sort of the correlation between founder talents and entrepreneurial talents and startup talent jumping in and creating this intellectual property, creating and writing new code, creating new music, creating new technological breakthroughs, you do see, of course, a heavy level of foreign direct investment and investor interest as well. And so very recently we've seen a large number of foreign direct investors and buoying a large number of Korean IPOs, particularly in the American markets. Coupang, as an example, that just very recently went public in the last 3 years, drew an outstanding level of investment from American fund managers, from Wall Street, from institutional investors, for a Korean e-commerce company. And so that normally would not be the case. It's very hard to list a foreign company in the United States but the relationship between institutional investors on Wall Street, hedge fund managers, equity managers, portfolio managers, and their belief in Korean intellectual property ecosystem and frameworks shows up directly, dollar for dollar, in terms of their willingness to buy shares and support the cost of capital with respect to some of these companies. And I think that when you look at some very recent studies between, of course, very recent the U.S. Patent Office as well as the European Intellectual Property Office, you do see that actually there's a viable bump in valuation as well as in terms of startup market capitalization in public companies who have invested very heavily in patent protection as well as intellectual property portfolios. Estimated roughly at about 36 to 37% of valuation increase simply by having and investing in a broader kind of patent portfolio overall. The other area that that we talk a lot about, I think, in the startup ecosystem is the creation of these companies, not just from someone's basement, their parents' homes or whatnot, which of course those are many stories, few and far in between, but of course many companies have been spun out from universities through technology licensing and IP licensing. And so the very robust nature of universities and the ecosystems that have developed around spinning out particularly companies in the biotech space or cybersecurity space have resulted in an accelerating pace of startup creation over the last several years. And we see this as a great example, sort of showcasing the relationship between academia, the startup ecosystem, and the venture capital ecosystem. I was just at an event 2 days ago at Princeton where there was just hundreds and hundreds of venture capitalists who were scouting out, looking for viable ideas for them to invest in and to grow as well. And so, again, none of that is possible without the strong protections as well as strong investments that these companies are making. Very recently, we saw is that over 90% of the growth in U.S. economic growth over the last year or so has been driven by small businesses in America. And those small businesses, by and large, have been driven by high tech as well as venture capital-driven communities. And the reality is that increasingly, when you drill down into what each of these companies do, exactly what their employees do, what they work on, what they sell, they aren't selling anything that they're not widgets, right? Most of these companies are not selling toys, they're not selling furniture, they're not selling carpets. What they're doing is they're selling code. They're selling some idea that they created, some character or some movie or some lines of code that customers are essentially paying some amount of money for. So this is what I tell our customers at Fiscal and our employees at Fiscal as well, right? Fiscal, we're a listed company on the New York Stock Exchange. We have over 1,000 employees around the world. And I ask people, what exactly do we sell? Right? What exactly are we selling here at our company? What we're selling is this idea of what our product is, which is a software product, several lines of code that we've written, and people's belief that they can license those lines of code for whatever use that they want. And so that is a real life example of how our business exists simply because of this idea of our protection of our intellectual property and the reality of the economic value creation around that. And so, as a startup founder, what do I think about, in terms of challenges and opportunities? The reality is that, for a company like ours, we are a middle market company going on becoming a larger company. We're pushing global expansion very heavily. We're pushing expansion in the European market, in the African market, in China, in the Chinese market, so on and so forth. And one of the first questions we ask ourselves is, if we enter this market, what are our risks and liabilities? Is there a risk of being copied? Is there a risk of being challenged in court? Is there a risk of commercial challenges or commercial litigation as a result of whatever we're selling? And so the regulatory frameworks are extremely important in terms of understanding the viability of a business model like ours and the viability of other business models in media and entertainment, and semiconductors, and electric vehicles, and cybersecurity and other software products as well. The reality is that I've seen this in my own career over the last several years or so, that there's an increasing level of IP litigation, a lot of challenges to companies that are trying to expand the scope of their businesses. That is meaningful in terms of management time and attention, legal resources, and cost and expense that are piled on top of companies. One study by PwC showed that there's been a compounded annual growth rate of about 13% of increasing patent-based litigation, especially on startups and small businesses. And those costs add up quite a bit in terms of settling cases or in terms of fighting litigation in court, in terms of the distraction of trying to develop a product for customers. And of course, no discussion on startups and intellectual property and innovation wouldn't be complete without the challenging role of patent trolls, not just in the United States, but in China and around the world, to continue to flood companies like ours as well as other startup companies with frivolous litigation and added expense and cost. And so there is quite a role for regulators to play, I think, in terms of limiting the expense towards companies, continue to make protections towards intellectual property, and helping particularly foreign direct investment flow between the U.S. and Korea in areas that are of strategic interest to both countries. And so whether it's in areas like artificial intelligence or content or whatever the case may be, none of these enhancements and investments would be possible without continued investment and attention by regulators. And so with that, appreciate everyone's time and appreciate the talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huang. Now, for our next topic, two speakers will jointly present. Mr. Paul Taek-soo Lee, President of the Korea-US IP Foundation, and Mr. Barry Detloff, the Chief of Business Development and Commercialization at Medical Research and Development Command. They will delve into Intellectual Property International Consortia and the pilot project. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to these gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this speaking opportunity. My name is Paul Taek-soo Lee Taek-soo, representing Korea-US IP Foundation. I'm going to introduce a very important, very unique policy trend in federal R&D agencies, which I believe will provide a positive impact on R&D communities and industry, Korea as well as United States. Policy trend is rooted on a report of Brookings Institute in Washington, D.C. And the title of the report was Localizing the Economic Impact of R&D. It was a proposal to Trump administration and Congress. The policy has been further developed by U.S. Army Medical Research and Development Command, MRDC, which is one of the influential federal R&D agencies. And this proposal has received very positive reflections from other federal agencies. Now, MRDC is planning to launch a pilot program in cooperation with Korean partner group this year, while many other agencies are still studying how to implement this policy into their own ways. The core concept of this policy is this: each or a few of federal agencies, together or alone, create an international partner group in each counterpart country and reveal their R&D results to the partner group before opening them to the public, so that the partner group can secure an executive exclusive marketing right on the revealed technologies. By doing this, the partner group will be encouraged to aggressively practice the R&D results or to further develop the R&D results. And as a result, federal R&D agencies will be benefited from the participation of the international partner group. I believe both countries will make synergy together and R&D communities and industries targeting worldwide market if this policy is properly implemented. I hope many of you can participate in the pilot program of KIPC here. IP professionals, R&D and industry colleagues. Now, let me introduce Mr. Barry Dotlow. For further explanation of the agenda, IP-DESK, which is his brainchild. Gary is Chief of Business Development of Commercialization at MRDC. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much to everybody, but especially to Paul. He was one of the earliest people to recognize that we need help. The U.S. Department of Defense needs your help. How many folks in the audience are patent holders? Actually have filed a patent in their name? Okay. More of you should be, but it's expensive. So I work up the road, Highway 270 in Frederick, Maryland. The Department of Defense has its medical research and development labs not only here in Maryland, but throughout the world. And I have a problem that you're going to help out, and Paul has already helped out tremendously. And that is, it's so simple. It's really expensive to file broadly. There were comments previously about universities filing patents, developing ecosystems. I'm a private biotech and infotech startup owner, as well as a federal employee with responsibility for commercializing things like vaccines, therapeutics, medical devices, and things of the sort. But what really separates biomed from the rest of high tech is that it takes us way longer to get to the marketplace. Patient capital, or otherwise known as patients capital, is really hard because it takes so much time to get through the regulatory hoops. So our investors require intellectual property. But what do? We throw our intellectual property in the trash. The Department of Defense meets every single month and takes IP, throws it in the trash. I feel terrible. But if I filed foreign on every single invention, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of patents, I could not afford to do so, and the taxpayer rightfully would say, why are you filing in certain countries? As an American biotech-er, I know very little about certain markets. The big ones, they're famous, everybody files in Europe and Korea and Japan. But there are a lot of other countries out there. So what I'm going to show you today is an idea that Paul has been instrumental in helping really formulate how could we work together and fill in the voids and the things that we need to do. So in the military, we call it bottom line up front, and that's, it's too much money to file patents. What if, for instance, there was one patent filed for worldwide protection? I'm sure the USPTO and every other country would say, we need that money to fund the government. It's a revenue source to almost every government that does patents. So, as Paul mentioned, our goal is to not own a consortium, but to initiate the formation of a consortium. And Korea is the obvious first choice, and I thank you all for being part of the reason that we're both here and encouraged to do so. I'll give you an example of our challenge. We have a potential licensee here in the US who wants to bring the hantavirus vaccine developed up at Fort Detrick in Frederick to the marketplace. The only problem is to get it injected into the arm of a soldier, it has to be FDA approved. And the only problem is we don't really have much hantavirus here in the US. but there is in Asia. And so our US manufacturer is ready to go. We're already in clinical trials, we have efficacy studies. How are we going to get this overseas? And the KIPEC is one such solution. So I'm going to give you the schematic, basically, of how we think we can work together. I have an invention coming out of our labs. We offer it to a consortium in Korea, in Canada, Australia, you name it. And what do I know about the worldwide market potential of an invention? I'm a retired scientist wannabe. I'm not even a patent attorney. I don't know the commercial marketplace for a hantavirus around the world, and we have hundreds of disclosures, so how could I possibly be in charge of that? I can't, but you can. Because if a consortium is formed in a country, and they say, this new invention from the Department of Defense or some of our licensees and partners, if this new invention is worth it in the commercial marketplace of a country, I need somebody else to tell me that. I don't actually even have the money to do the market research in every country myself. I don't know the infrastructure, I don't know the trends. So the goal is to actually have that possibility where the consortium makes the decision. Do we have enough of a market to pay, not for the full development of this new invention, but just for the foreign patent filing in country? Isn't that enough to get us off the dime and moving forward? If the consortium says yes, then a marketing right is provided to the consortium to sub-license to a company in country. That could be exclusive or non-exclusive. Multiple companies may need to distribute it, but it's better for somebody else who understands the structure of the industry locally to do so. If a company says no, a consortium says no, and let's say all the consortium said no, then I'd have to listen and realize that maybe I have a dead technology and I shouldn't even be filing it in the United States. I will get fired by Congress if I don't license some aspect of this to a US company. And at this point, we have a small business preference, which when you think about it, is not really an oxymoron, but we have a problem. It takes millions to billions to get a biomedical drug through the FDA. How many small US businesses have that kind of money? Those small US businesses don't even have enough money to foreign file all over the world. And I unfortunately don't either. So I am looking to a consortium model to crowdsource the commercial development of biomedical innovations. The US company can wholesale. What are the odds that a small US company already has distributors in every country of the world? 0. In the long run, the companies overseas may be bigger than the US company. And that's okay. They could invest, they could joint venture, or they could buy that company. So this is the EPIC model. I invite you, if you're interested, to definitely talk to me during break. But how would it help companies in Korea? Well, early access for the military in particular, because a lot of our technology is military medical. But the revenue stream is already being realized from our licensees in the United States. There are products that are being sold today, as well as new inventions. And that adoption early is sometimes market making. Lower development costs if it's been borne by a US company, and an earlier time to market. IP rights that are more than just the country individually, but the world. And really coordinating that so that different EPICs could potentially work together has been proposed. For US businesses, it's increasing sales overseas. I have many problems. One of them is when I license a small business and they go bankrupt, I don't have the product for the warfighter anymore. If they don't sell overseas, and some of them don't, most of them don't, except for the large pharma and vaccine companies, then I have a risk that the product is no longer available to DoD. So our goal is to really make sure that we can spread the technology to save people's lives. These are groundbreaking or mundane. It doesn't matter which it is if it saves your life. And for us, we need all the partner assistance we can because medical stability is military stability, and military stability can be country stability. So our ideal partner, no surprise to you guys in the room, has a strong U.S. government relationship. Check. Correct. A substantial civilian and military market. Some of our stuff is cheap, but many of the biotech stuff is expensive. Respect for intellectual property are on the top of the list, guys. And interest from Paul. So I'm going to pass by this one. This, you saw it in part, but the rise and the change, no, actually it's going by itself, but you'll obviously see as the years go by, I need help. Where should we start epics? Because there are some places where IP has fallen by the wayside and other places that have really continued to increase that. And it's our goal to work with the winners, the folks who actually do appreciate intellectual property. I'm going to pass on so that in the interest of time. Paul's worked extensively with us to fill out this list. The KIPIC is not my organization, it's your organization. If you'd like to join it, talk to Paul or myself. We need to emphasize that KIPICs need people who want to make money and not just do government to government. We already work government to government in trading technology and R&D. The patents are for commercialization, for actually making money, because that money will come back and fund the future intellectual property protections that the KIPIC can afford to make, not only in DoD's IP portfolio, but as we bring in other folks like the NIH, the CDC, the FDA, universities, and other commercial partners of ours. I will end there. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I hope everyone had a refreshing break. Without further delay, I will go ahead and introduce our first speaker for session 2. Mr. Pablo Yun serves as an attorney advisor at the Office of Administrative Law Judges at the U.S. International Trade Commission. He will provide us with valuable introductory insights into IP litigations at the U.S. International Trade Commission. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Yun.
Spill that drink. So my name is Yoon Byung-woo. I do work as an attorney advisor to Judge Johnson Hines. As you will see later, all the judges have been hired in the last, I would say, 7 or 8 years. But that's about the only thing that I noticed that has changed since the last time I did this presentation, a similar presentation 15 years ago. It was at an IAKO conference in Philadelphia. But I want to thank the sponsors and organizers of this event. I'm privileged now to speak today. I wanted to start off with a little factoids about myself. 50 years ago, 1973, my family and I immigrated to this country, right here, Alexandria City. So I'm a product of Alexandria City Public Schools. I went to elementary school, middle school, and I don't know whether you watched the film. Remember the Titans? Some of you may know that Hollywood movie, Denzel Washington, and now famous Ryan Gosling. But he played a bit role in that movie. But so that was about my high school, and T.C. Williams, now called the Alexandria City Public School. So I am back here and talking about the ITC. What is the ITC? Many people are unfamiliar. When I started working for Judge Lucker, he has passed away since 2005. I didn't know what the ITC was, actually. I was working at a law firm, and then I went to work for the government. I remember, I didn't know they did patent litigation at the ITC. I thought those were publishing courts. But one thing very interesting, as you can see there, each year in the United States, 1 in 5 patent infringement trial is held at the ITC. There are 94 U.S. district courts. So we're talking about 1 out of 95, if you think of ITC as a court. But 20% of the patent disputes are decided at the ITC. And as you can see in that slide, you probably recognize many of the companies. Really, all of the companies come at the ITC. It's a very popular forum, and you will probably see Samsung as well as LG in that slide. I think, remembering back, I had some cases with Samsung and LG, Daewoo Pharmaceuticals, Nautilus, Hyosung, and Hynix. Hynix versus Toshiba back in 2006. So clearly, many companies choose to litigate at the ITC. Go to the next slide here. These are the various products. One of the cases that I had was an Apple versus HTC case in 2010 during the smartphone wars. You may recall in 2010. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And many really interesting products. Segway, I had cases with Juul as a vaping company, garage door openers, Xbox, you name it. They ran the gamut. And as you can see from this, the next slide here, half of ITC patent infringement trials have more than 10 million at risk, and 25% have more than 25 million at risk. And if you look at that graph, you see how much money is spent in legal fees. So it is very, very expensive to litigate at the ITC. And one of the biggest reasons is because of the speed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's not unusual to spend more than $5 million in our cases. So again, what is the ITC? United States International Trade Commission. It was established by Congress in 1916, and the name changed from U.S. Tariff Commission to ITC in 1974. There are 6 commissioners who serve 9-year terms. Currently, we have 5, but 1 just retired from government, so we currently only have 4. So that makes it interesting when you have even number of commissioners, because they're the ones who decide and give final determination. When they review the judge's initial determinations or judge's opinions, we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. So hopefully, Congress, they're busy with other priorities at the moment, but if they put the ITC on their priority list, hopefully we'll get our number 5 and number 6 commissioners soon. It is not a policy-making body, and it is not a trade negotiator. That is the role of the USTR. So Section 337 of the Tariff Act of 1930. So this is the dry stuff. So hopefully coffee woke up and you can follow what I'm going to say here. It is unlawful to import, sell for importation, or sell in the U.S. after importation an article if the article infringes a valid. Sorry, let's see here. We go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. So I think it's important that you see the language on the screen. So import, sell for importation, or sell in the U.S. after importation. And then 2 elements. If the article infringes a valid enforceable U.S. intellectual property right, usually patents, we have 90% of our cases are U.S. patent infringement cases, copyright, trademark, etc. We'll go through that a little later. And the second part, which is very important, which is a unique element of the ITC, a domestic industry exists or is in the process of being established. So there are two prongs to that, technical prong and economic prong, and we'll address that a little bit later. I'm not sure if, next slide please. Page 7. So section 337 is a governmental investigation. I'll just continue to speak. Or should I get the next slide, please? Yeah, there we go. So the ITC has jurisdiction, in-rem jurisdiction over the products. And those products have to be imported. You have to show importation. And the next interesting thing is public interest is represented by Office of Unfair Import Investigation. They're known as the staff or OUII. This is another interesting aspect of ITC. Normally when you go to district court, you just have two parties, right? Plaintiff and the one a party that's being sued. But here we have a third party, and they are government employees. They work for the ITC, and that's why we call them the staff attorneys. And they provide theoretically their opinions, their decisions based on really objective findings and nothing at stake other than to provide really the best interest. They look out for the interests of the public. And the president has the power to disapprove remedies on policy grounds only, but has rarely done so. And as you may be aware, in 2010, there was the Samsung versus Apple case, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. That was one of the very few times the president actually set aside the decision that Samsung won at the ITC. But it is rarely used. And what happens after you get your decision? Okay, you win in litigation after 16 months at the ITC. Well, the remedy you get is the CBP, Customs Border and Protection, will stop the goods, the infringing goods, from coming into the United States. And the Commission enforces cease and desist orders, so these would be the products that are, there may be inventory of products. Once those products are found to be infringed, then the Commission enforces cease and desist orders. But there are no monetary damages, so you have to go to the district courts for that. And what the litigators often do is they file parallel suits. They will file a suit at a district court, and then immediately thereafter file a complaint at the ITC. And the reason for that is because the ITC will render a decision. The judge will render a decision typically within 11 to 12 months. And then the Commission will render its final decision between 15 and 16 months. So speed is what the ITC offers. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, 90% of the Section 337 investigations involve patent infringement, but we do have time to time matters of copyright, trademark, trade dress, trade secret, false advertising, and antitrust. I believe there was one antitrust case a few years ago, but very rare. Next slide, please. Domestic industry requirements. So this is a really interesting aspect of the ITC. There's a technical prong and economic prong. So as the slide shows, complainant must have a domestic industry related to articles protected by IP laws. What does that mean? So an infringement analysis applied to complainant's own products. So all the claims, the elements of the claims, each claim element, you have to basically show that your own products practice each of those claim elements. That's how you establish technical prong. Economic prong, there are three ways you can show that. Significant investment in plant and equipment, or significant employment of labor or capital, or substantial investment in exploitation of the IP, including engineering, R&D, or licensing. The economic prong is where many of the litigants are always looking for answers. They always look for answers. Well, how do you meet the economic prong? I've been at the ITC for probably around 15 years, and I'm still seeking, looking for the right answer. So that's another way of saying that there is no hard number. There's no minimum number of employees or the amount of investment you have to invest, but they look at the economic marketplace, the type of products they are, and the type of investment that they make. How important is it to that company? How is it important to the actual product itself? So the economic prong, you're showing the investments with respect to the products that you've shown that they meet the technical prong requirements. So that's the domestic industry requirement. Next slide, please. Available remedies, limited exclusion order. As I mentioned before, it stops importation of products from the litigating parties. General exclusion order. This is also very interesting. You might have noticed ink cartridges. We've had many ink cartridges cases, for example. There may be 50 respondents, and yet there may be 500 manufacturers of knockoff ink cartridges. Well, how do you stop importation of the goods from all 500 companies? Well, you seek a general exclusion order. Okay? So it's as it says here, stops importation products from all importers, not just parties. So this is a very powerful remedy that you can get, and of course there has to be you must show certain facts like pattern of violation by many companies and the difficulty to find the source of these infringing products, and the element of is preventing the circumvention. So that's another element, very important. Cease and desist order we talked about. Enforcement action. The civil penalties are part of the enforcement action. So once a respondent's good is found to infringe, if one event, one importation action, one day will cost $100,000. So this is again a very powerful remedy. Some of the litigants file enforcement actions. This is post-violation, so the respondent's products have been found to be infringed, but they continue to import. And then if you can show that, the penalties are $100,000 per day for violating an order. And I think the highest number that we've seen were $15 million penalty for a company. It was in cartridges company. Next slide, please. So public interest factors, ITC must consider the effect of a remedy on the public health and welfare, competitive conditions of the U.S. economy, the production of like or directly competitive articles in the U.S., and the effect on U.S. consumers. I work as an attorney advisor for a judge, so we don't always get this delegated to us by the commission. But if there are facts that are important to find how these factors are affected, then the commission will delegate that to the judge. And so, for example, like medical devices, because they're very important. And so even if they're found to be infringing, sometimes you might the commission might design a certain remedy where they can continue to sell some of the infringing goods and so forth. So, well, those are a lot of details, and I really don't have time to get into too much detail. But the next slide, please. So ancillary proceedings, these are post-violation. I talked about enforcement, advisory and modification. These don't occur as much, but advisory happens when a company wants to find out if their redesigns continue to infringe. That maybe they took out an element that was found to be infringing. So if you redesigned a product, then you can ask for, you can start an advisory proceeding and ask a judge, commission to ascertain whether they continue to infringe or not. Modification proceedings, again, this is very, very rare, and they have to do with typically the scope of the investigation. For example, if they're garage door openers, what do they include? Do they actually include commercial gate openers and so forth? So if there's some confusion, the party can actually ask for a modification proceeding to get clarification. Next slide, please. So who decides the Section 337 matters? Obviously, the judges, I believe, they play the most important role. They are the fact collectors, and they decide based on the law and the facts. They conduct the evidentiary hearing, and then issues what we call initial determination. It's initial because it's not final. And it is the judge's opinion. They generally run 200 to 300 pages. And the commission then reviews the initial determination and issues a final determination, otherwise known as FD. And then the president, USTR, on the behalf of the president, reviews all of any remedy ordered within 60 days and may disapprove the remedy. Again, this is very, very rare. Who else is involved? The U.S. Court of Appeals from the Federal Circuit. So our decisions from the Commission are appealed directly to the CAFC, Court of Appeals. So just like the district court cases, you can appeal to the Federal Circuit. And that's the way it works for the ITC decisions. And we talked about CBP. They enforce the Commission's orders to stop entry or determine whether certain products are infringing or not. Next slide, please. So pre-institution investigation, this is, I won't spend too much time on this, but basically this is something that the staff attorneys, they review the complaint, make sure you have everything. These are all in the Commission rules. So if you're interested, it's very, very hard reading, but you need to read the Commission's rules about what you need in order to file a valid complaint. Next slide, please. And then the Commission institutes an investigation. It's a formal vote, and a notice of investigation is issued. I think the important thing here is the second bullet. It identifies products, parties, and specific patent claims, and this is a scope of investigation. This is what limits the case. So you can't later on. You can move for leave. A party can move, a complainant can move for leave to add more patents, but you have to show good cause and so forth, and you have to do it very early on. So my advice is, if you're filing a complaint, make sure you have everything, your whole universe, what patents you want to assert, what is the universe of the infringing products. Those are probably the two most important things. And the parties. Sometimes a respondent gets added, but it's best to identify all of those at the initial stage when you're filing the complaint. And then the chief ALJ, administrative law judge, will assign case to presiding ALJ, and that's usually based on rotation. And OUII staff attorney, in the old days, staff attorneys used to be on every case, but years ago, I think maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, we determined that they cannot get on every case because it's just too much work for them. So, and we don't have the budget. So they pick and choose what investigations they're going to get involved in, and sometimes they only get involved in certain aspects of the case. But we find, me working as an attorney, working for a judge, we find the staff's input very, very helpful. The next slide. Role of the administrative law judge. So they issue ground rules, sets target dates, and my advice is please read the ground rules. If you're interested in litigating, read the ground rules. We have many inquiries from parties about certain topics, and they're all in the ground rules. And I hate to say to the parties, please read the ground rules first before you call and inquire about certain issues. They oversee discovery, issue subpoenas, issues protective orders. Obviously, they preside over evidentiary hearings, and compiles the evidentiary record. Right, this is very important because that evidentiary record moves with the case. So that entire evidentiary record in the appeal process, it moves to the federal circuit, and sometimes if it gets appealed to the Supreme Court, that is the evidentiary record that the ALJ compiles. And the judge issues initial determination on violation, and then issues recommended determination on remedy and bonding issues. So they're just recommended determinations, not initial determinations. Next, please. So why do we have this consistency? Why is ITC very popular? Well, we have experienced trial judges. These are bench trials, and you can look up the bios on the websites. Judge Cheney is currently the chief, and I work for Judge Doris Johnson Hines. She just came on board, but she has a lot of experience in the patents, over 30 years. So what you can expect at the ITC is these judges really know the technology. 5 of the 6 judges have technical background. They know the technology and they know the law, and we help the attorneys help them with the facts as well. So it's a really great forum for complex cases. Recommendations. I was thinking about maybe not including this, but this is just some tips that I found helpful for litigators to follow these rules, if you will. Get an understanding of the Commission of Federal Circuit precedents. You can get all of this on our electronic database, the public versions of all the documents, all the opinions, the judges' opinions, and if sometimes judges' opinions get reversed by the Commission, there's the Commission opinions. You can look all of this up. And if you were particularly interested in, let's say you have a case before Judge Cheney, then you can look up all of his opinions in the last 5 years, and how does he rule? What is his style? Orders, and so forth. So it's a great tool. The electronic database is a place that people should spend a lot of time researching, and keep informed of documents served by the Commission or another party, because again, time is of the essence in the ITC cases. Really, things move so fast. The parties, when I was working in the law firms, we spent many nights and weekends working on motions and motion responses, and must have a very thorough understanding of the cases. Time is of the essence. Concentrate on critical issues. This is kind of my pet peeve. Some parties, they throw everything in, and even plain and clearly loser arguments. And to me, that's a time wasted, and that's a waste of money. But again, this is just my opinion. Consider the cost of litigation, because sometimes it may not be worth it to spend $5 million, $6 million in litigating.
whatever you're trying to get, it just may not be worth it. So you should consider settlement as a way out. Role of the Office of General Counsel. They are the counsel to the Commission. They have a privileged relationship. They review all ALJ initial determinations. So judges' opinions are not the final say at the Commission, right? Unfortunately for me, I don't like that, but because I work for a judge. But the Commission, the commissioners have their own attorneys, and then they also have Office of General Counsel. So they all work in teams to review the IDs, every single ID, every single issue, and every single sub-issue, to really sometimes nitpick and sometimes review, remand, reverse, vacate. So that's their role. That's one of their biggest jobs. And they also appeal to the Federal Circuit. Next slide, please. So we talked a lot about this, but basically, after you file a complaint, you go to trial typically in 8 to 9 months. So it's extremely fast. Discovery is constant. And if you have discovery disputes, most of the judges have monthly discovery meetings, discovery dispute meetings, talk it out, and you try to convince the judge to see it your way, but it's lightning speed. And so after the trial is over, then the parties generally have about 3 to 4 weeks to write the post-hearing briefs, and then the judge typically has 2 to 3 months to issue the initial determination or the opinion, and the Commission has 4 months to review that. Next slide, please. I am almost done. So ITC versus District Court. Next slide, please. We really talked about it. Actually, ITC features speed, expertise, jurisdiction over the products, pleading with specificity. So this is very important. When you file a complaint, you can't just say, oh, they infringed. You need to show by claim charts how each element is met. Advisory redesign or adjudication. We have broad remedies. We talked about that. ITC differs from District Court. This is my last slide. Hopefully everyone is still awake. No money damages, no jury, no equitable consideration of remedy. We have the importation requirement. Again, this is the ITC, very different. Domestic industry requirement, technical prong and the economic prong. And ITC staff can be a party, and we have our statutory remedies. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions after the forum is over, you can come talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yoon. Our next speaker is Mr. Seok-Hoon Kim, who is a partner attorney at Western Manhattan Daniel and Adrian, and the president of Korean American Intellectual Property Bar Association. Mr. Kim will be enlightening us on the topic of IP protection strategy in the era of artificial intelligence. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Kim.
Can you go back to the first screen? This is not working. Okay, so my name is Seok-Hoon Kim. I'm a Korean president at Korean American IP Bar Association, and actually I'm a partner at WHDLAP. So, thank you, sponsor, for inviting me for speaking at this event.
So I'll be talking about IP protection strategies in the era of AI. Okay, so can you first? Okay. Okay, so okay, next page, please. So I guess the first thing we have to do is how to define AI. So there are thousands of definitions of AI. So I Googled a little bit. I spent a little bit of time what AI is defined. So as grad students with AA degree, the first thing you do is go back to textbook. So I Googled a little bit, and then I chose the most famous textbook for AI. It's called AI, A Modern Approach, written by Professor Stewart and Professor Peters. I believe that one is UC Berkeley professor, and the other one is Stanford professor. But AI is broadly defined as development of machines capable of undertaking human activities in 4 areas. So thinking humanly, acting humanly, thinking rationally, and acting rationally. So it's pretty difficult to understand what that means. So I searched a little bit or so, and then as you can see from that, the graphics that Director Charles showed before, PTO is defining AI with 8 components. So, okay, next slide. So there are a lot of challenges that we have for AI and with IP. So IPs are mostly based on effort by authors and creators. And obviously algorithms, models, and data set and results of AI could be protected. And obviously the scope of IP and ownerships are based on the work product performed by the author or the creator. But if AI is applied to create this new work, then who's the author and who's the creator? So if there's no one, then is there any enforceable IP for protecting the new works? But unfortunately, as most of you know, the law does not require AI to be a creator in the same way as a human being. So the ultimate question that we have now is that how do IP laws protect the work created by using AI? So that's a fundamental question we have to answer. So I start with the patent. As you know, U.S. patent law requires inventor to be a human being, natural person. There's a famous case, Taylor versus Vidal, and USPTO and Fed Circuit held the inventor must be a natural person. And recently, U.S. Supreme Court denied this. Next page. So, what are the AI-based patents? So, in realities, AI is relatively new technologies, but it's at the end of the day, it's still known algorithms for which general techniques are known, publicly known. So, it looks pretty fancy, but at the end of the day, it's basically machine learning algorithms or mathematical algorithms that are pretty much known from the past. But I believe that the patent may still be obtained for innovative implementation of generative AI algorithms. So claims may be directed to unique inputs to the AI models, or unique way of training AI models, or unique application or outputs from generative AI models. But there's a detectability issues. So when you try to define or try to see whether there's any patent infringement, you should be able to see whether there's an infringement. So the fundamental question we have is how can we detect if infringer is actually using AI in the same way as claimed? Because at the end of the day, it's software. So how can you see whether infringer is actually using the AI in the same way as claimed? And is it, for example, one can detect the inputs and outputs and comparing if there's similarity or not, but it's just one way of see whether there's a AI infringement or not. Next page. And another issue that we have for AI patent is that, obviously there's one issue. So patent directed to algorithms or implementation of a process through a general purpose computer may not be patentable for claiming abstract ideas. So we see that pretty much every day in one-on-one injections. So I guess the one way I advise the client is that to avoid the discount situation, we try to claim a transformative aspect of the AI. So the first one is the improving computer functionalities or improving process in a specific application, not general application, but specific application, and learning to limiting to specific rules to create a desired result. So these are some of the ways that we can work on one-on-one for AI patents. But obviously we have a patent examiner here, so we can make sure that our suggestion is okay. But so another issue that we have for AI patents is 103 obviousness issues. So like obviously how can we integrate the capability of AI into the concept of personal ordinary skill yards? Because obviously AI can access and understand all priors in broad detail. So AI can understand anything, but obviously for usual cases, one of the ordinary skill yards, they are able to understand the area that are in the limited area. But for AI, obviously AI can understand everything. So how can you define personal ordinary skill yard? And also there's a motivation to combine in 103 rejection with a bunch of references. And how do we need even concept of teaching away or reasonable expectation of success, because AI can cover all combinations and predict the expected results. So for AI patents, do we need teaching away concepts or reasonable expectation of success, because AI obviously can do everything. So this is some of the questions that we should be able to answer for AI patents in the future. So what are the key considerations so that we have a robust AI claims? I guess the first thing we need to do is define the field of application. So inventor needs to define the scope to ensure that the protection is in a specific niche to avoid overbroad claims and highlight novelty. So obviously we don't want, we need to have a specific field defining the applications or claims. And the second thing we need to have for a robust AI claim is that we need to highlight precise AI mechanisms. Obviously, AI mechanisms, there are a bunch of algorithms that we can use, but in order to have robust AI claims, we need to narrow it down so that AI mechanisms that are used in claims are clearly defined, such as which neural network or deep learning or reinforcement learning, all these simple fancy languages, but we need to define specific and precise AI mechanisms in the AI claims. And the third things that we need to focus on is highlight the technical advantage. Just to overcome one-on-one injection, we need to highlight, emphasize, and technical advantage of AI and patent claims to clearly distinguish them from the mere abstract and generic ideas. And also the last thing we can think of is we need to balance between algorithms and tangible applications. Okay. Next slide, please. So what are the AI patent claims drafting strategies? So obviously we need to have a multi-layer claims. Like patent claim drafting in other fields, inventor need to begin with a broader claim and transition to more specific and narrow dependent claims for comprehensive coverage. And also for AI claims, we can have functional claims because the functional claim can cover few variations in AI algorithmic implementation. So in AI, there are a lot of variations, so we can have functional claims to cover some of the examples of algorithmic implementations. And also data specificity. So inventor should claim the specifics of data utilized, so like what kind of data type they use and its processing method. And as I mentioned before, no more generalizations. So we want to focus on distinct features and practical application of the invention. So we don't want to have broad claims that could be rejected in general. So we want to narrow it down to specific examples and specific situations. And the last thing that we need to do is, since this area is evolving every day, we need to pay attention to development of AI patent landscape. So we need to look at case laws, patent office guidelines, and potential registrations from the Congress. So we need to make sure that our claims are covers the guidelines and case laws from the Federal Circuit or PTA. So next, after patent, we can talk a little bit about copyrights. As Director Kim talked before, U.S. Copyright Act requires human authorships. So I think from this statement, we can think of a situation where while the author may utilize technological tools to aid creating copyrightable works, those works must be created by human beings. So, so there are a lot of tools out there, but the issue is how can we define the boundary where the work done by creative authors are copyrightable, but some are not. So that's why the copyright is struggling with a new landscape of how much human involvement is necessary for copyright registration. So they're having a hard time defining at what boundary they need to allow registration or not. Okay. Next page, please. So there are three, I guess, important cases. The first one is Taylor. So he applied for copyright registration for the work created by interactive regions that he invented, and but the copyright offices held that the copyright extended only to the work created by human beings and not by the work created entirely by AI. Obviously, DC agreed with the Copyright Office. So he failed to get a registration from the Copyright Office. And there's another one, it's a little bit tricky, but this comic book was created by AI platform, and its images are from the AI platforms. But the text itself is written by a person. So Copyright Office allowed registration for text, but not the pictures, because pictures were created by AI. And the last one is the pending case. So it's we have to look for how Copyright Office decides. But for this case, Copyright Office has yet to weigh on the derivative work they originated with the copyright drawings by human authors, but there's a lot of iteration by AI algorithms. So AI algorithms is used to modify or add some colors and dimensions, and the Copyright Office has yet to decide whether to allow the registration. So the last case might be interesting to see how Copyright Office is defining what's copyrightable or not. So these are the three main cases that we have related to AI copyrights. And the next one is trademark and trade secrets. So obviously, trademark and trade secret protections are available for output from AI, because unlike patent or copyright, to create a trademark is not relevant. So AI can create their own trademark and get the trademark protections. So potential trademarks or trademark secrets need not be created by trademark or secret owner, unlike copyright work. But AI-generated trademarks and trademark secrets are subject to the same rules as other trademark and trade secret, at least until the USPTO says otherwise. So even if trademark and trade secrets came from AI, still can be registered until PTO says otherwise, but they need to follow the same rules and regulations as non-AI trademark or trade secrets. So how AI is used in trade secret and trademark area? So it could be used for searching US PTO registry, for existing work that could conflict with applicant ideas. And also AI could be used to police whether a registered mark is used by other brands or counterfeit products. So AI could be used for this enforcement areas. And then potentially AI could be used for trademark examination as well. So we'll see how that happens in USPTO. But AI is not just used in patent, but it's widely used in shared body trade secret protections. Okay. Last one. So since AI is evolving, so there are a lot of areas that we need to pay attention to. And some of the things that we need to, seems to look for is that it's unclear if current copyright law will be sufficient enough to solve this involving AI contents. So the current laws, it's not good enough to decide, there's infringement or not for AI generated content. So these are the areas that I guess the Congress needs to work on. And also, regulation may soon provide guidance on retaining IP for software inventions, such as with introduction of Patent Eligibility Restoration Act of 2023, if it passed. So we are not sure how it's going to pass or not, but this new law introduced by a lawmaker that talk about software protection for IP. So these are the registrations that we need to watch out for in the future. So until Congress or courts or regulator acts, advancing AI technology will be governed by, unfortunately, outdated laws. So but this AI technology is evolving so fast, but the laws and are not following up to speed. So unfortunately, we have to live up with the old laws. So the last advice I can give to practitioner out there is that given the uncertainties in the law and evolving nature of legal issues, the authors and inventors should be ready to identify how and with which technology AI contribute to their work. So we need to be able to have evidence of what kind of work is done by AI and what kind of work is done by human beings, so that when the copyright office or patent office decide to give registration, you should be able to give you the evidence or proof that up to this point is done by AI and up to this point is done by human beings. So all this area is kind of up in the air. We don't know the clear picture of what's going to happen in the future, but certainly AI is nothing that we cannot avoid in the future. So practitioners as well as other parties needs to pay attention to IP awareness for AI. That's what I have. If you have any question, you can talk to me afterward, and if you're interested in our organization, you can talk to me or you can send me an email to us. We're willing to
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. Our next speaker is Ms. Yong-Ha Kim, who holds the managing attorney position at the New York IP-DESK. Ms. Kim will be providing valuable insights into intellectual property protection for companies conducting business in the United States. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Ms. Kim.
Hello, I'm Yong-Ha Kim, a managing attorney at KOIPA's New York IP-DESK. It's an honor to be a part of the 2023 Korea-US IP Forum and PCT Roundtable, and I appreciate this opportunity to introduce the New York IP-DESK. Next. In response to the growing recognition and importance of intellectual property rights in the global economy, KOIPA, the Korean Intellectual Property Office, and Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency, KOTRA for short, have operated a network of IP offices since 2008, offering comprehensive intellectual property assistance in regions with active IP rights issues. The IP-DESK program has been established in 17 locations in 11 countries, including China, the United States, Germany, Japan, Mexico, and so on. Each IP-DESK in the US has the mission of providing IP guidance for Korean small and mid-sized companies entering and expanding their business to the US market and increasing the competitiveness of companies based on IP rights. Next, please. KOTRA's New York IP-DESK is located in New York City on 57th Street, which is 3-4 blocks away from Central Park. We welcome Korean small and mid-sized businesses seeking intellectual property rights assistance. The New York IP-DESK was established in 2013, making it the second IP-DESK to be established in the United States following LA IP-DESK. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of the New York IP-DESK. Over the past decade, we have provided important information and unparalleled service regarding intellectual property rights. It is with great pride that we reflect on our accomplishments, and we look forward to continuing our mission with the same passion in the years to come. The KOTRA New York IP-DESK works in a variety of ways to achieve its mission. KOTRA IP-DESK services can be broadly divided into 3 different categories. Previous slide, please. First, assistance with intellectual property rights. IP-DESK provides assistance regarding the acquisition and protection of U.S. IP rights. We also provide initial response guidelines for businesses that have been sued or received court summons in the U.S. Second, information services. IP-DESK actively educates the public about U.S. IP laws through seminars and other various channels of communication. We collect up-to-date information regarding current U.S. IP litigation trends to help prevent and avoid potential conflicts. IP-DESK monitors national and international industries and also related patent activities to identify, predict potentially troublesome cases and to provide early warnings for potential conflicts. We create databases of U.S. attorneys and provide them to Korean businesses that may need access to such information. Next slide, yeah. Lastly, subsidizing IP application fees and costs. IP-DESK provides subsidies for legal opinion letters. The legal opinion letter program provides subsidies for conducting patent infringement analysis, such as freedom to operate, reviewing non-disclosure agreements, and drafting legal memorandums, responding to legal disputes related to intellectual property, which with a specific focus on the pre-litigation stage. We provide strategic advice and support to Korean small and mid-sized companies before legal disputes escalate to the full-blown litigation stage. Next slide, please. Every year, KOTRA and KOIPA attend various trade shows and seminars where we counsel companies on how to best protect their IP rights, including patents, trademark, and copyrights at the event. We offer these services online, especially during the pandemic, which was very well received as many companies were able to participate regardless of their location. We still host frequent webinars, and twice a year we hold a legal and business consultation program where we bring in experts in their respective fields to provide free 30 minutes consultations to companies. We also created a virtual New York IP-DESK IP Counseling Center at Gather, a Korean metaverse tech companies so that Korean small and mid-sized companies can go online and get IP advice whenever they want. The photo on the left shows a webinar on the latest developments in U.S. intellectual property law and policy that we hosted in August 2021 during the height of the coronavirus pandemic, with speakers Andrei Yanku, former U.S. Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the Patent and Trademark Office, and Vincent Garlock, Director of American Intellectual Property Law Association, providing in-depth discussions. New York IP-DESK also has a YouTube channel, the address of which can be found at the back of the brochure that you have, and we invite you to check it out. The New York IP-DESK YouTube channel provides a basic but practical overview of U.S. patent and trademark law and features many of our past seminars and webinars. These are some of the seminars that the New York IP-DESK has organized in collaboration with the Korean Society and the Global Open Innovation Platform, SOSA New York. Next slide. In addition to large-scale seminars with more than 100 participants, the New York IP-DESK frequently organizes smaller seminars such as the one featured here, where companies can hear from industry experts in more intimate setting. Next, please. Each month, New York's IP-DESK updates its newsletter subscribers with the latest intellectual property trends, rotating through topics of interest to businesses such as patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. The New York IP-DESK also collects all the newsletters sent out each month and publish them in a book at the end of the year. In addition to our annual newsletter compilation, we often publish books covering subjects ranging from the latest developments in U.S. intellectual property policy to intellectual property topics of interest to New York startups. Next, please. The Legal Opinion Letter Program is announced on Co-Trust Trade and Investment 24 website on a rolling basis. This year, the program has run 4 times in total, and it has been great to see companies effectively resolve their legal disputes through the New York IP-DESK's Legal Opinion Letter Program. Co-Trust IP-DESK is the first contact point reached out to by Korean companies in need of help on their IP matters, and we will serve as a bridgehead for Korean companies seeking to acquire and protect their IP rights in the U.S. We are committed to providing our best efforts in helping Korean business with their IP journey. Please reach out to us if you have any IP needs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kim. Last but not least, we have our final speaker for today, Mr. Tae-hyung Lee, President of the PCT Korea Center. Mr. Lee will be talking about the Korean Intellectual Property Office PCT services and providing an introduction to PCT Korea Help Desk services. Please join me in sending a warm welcome to Mr. Lee.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Tae-hyung Lee. I'll give you a brief presentation regarding Kippo's PCT services. First, I'd like to show you some IP statistics and then explain in further detail about the Korea government's PCT services. Next. This graph shows PCT application trend between 1978 and 2022. PCT applications have steadily increased, and 300,000 yearly applications could be reached by 2024. This graph shows pitch applications by country. Among I5 countries, Korea recorded the sharpest increase. Korea's pitch application growth rate was 6.2%. In the same year, pitch applications were highly concentrated in just a few countries, such as China, the US, Japan, and Korea. Regionally, Asia accounts for 54.7% of total pitch applications. When it comes to pitch application languages, the share of application filed in English has steadily declined from 69% in 1993 to 42% in 2022. However, the share of applications filed in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean accounted for 48% of total filings combined. This slide shows the top pitched applicants in 2022. Most applicants were based in Asia, such as Huawei, Samsung, and LG. Now, I'd like to talk a bit about IP services at KIPO. Approximately 1,800 staff members work at KIPO, and almost half of them are specialists in fields like IP law, science, engineering, and so on. KIPO regard examination quality as the most important goal. In order to maintain the highest quality of PhD examinations, these PhD-related divisions collaborate openly and effectively. KIPO use cutting-edge technologies in examinations, and conducting a patent examination, we use machine translation system for translating non-Korean documents, as well as an AI search system. This graph shows an interesting statistic. While other search authorities mostly cite literature from their own languages, KIPO use documents published in various languages, making their searches much more balanced. It's because that most KIPO examiners can directly understand English and Japanese documents. I want to emphasize that this is one of the outstanding strengths of the KIPO. When it comes to PhD search fee, KIPO provides a very fair price. It's nearly half the price of EPO search fee. There are so many countries that can select KIPO as their international searching authority, ISA. KIPO has developed a reputation for high-quality work in timely manner. This slide shows a comment from customers about KIPO's PhD services. In 2009, KIPO made a branch in America that has provided local services regarding PhD-related issues for over 10 years. KIPO is the first and only Korean ISA to have a help desk in the US. If you have any questions and feedback, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. We would like to inform you that the New York and LA IP desks and PCT Korea will be conducting on-site IP consultations for inquiries and issues pertaining to IP business strategy, or other related matters. The consultation tables have been arranged at the back of this room. You can easily find them with your displayed banners. For those of you who register for the USPTO tour, you will still have a chance to participate in the consultation session if you choose to do so. The tour begins around 3:40 at the registration desk where you checked in and received your name tag. We are fortunate to have Mr. Thomas Hong, who will be your tour guide for today. Please make sure you have your government ID with you, as it will be required for the tour. We've prepared a small token of appreciation for all of you who joined us today. In order to make sure everyone gets a chance, please take only one gift per person. You can collect it at the registration desk as you exit. You can also get parking validation there. If any of you wish to join us for dinner beginning at 5 o'clock, you are most welcome. We'll be dining at Whiskey and Oyster, which is 5 minutes walk from this hotel. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to ask any of our staff members at the registration desk. For those of you who do not plan to participate in on-site IP consultation or the USPTO tour, and those of you who join us virtually via Zoom, we express our sincere gratitude for your attendance at today's event. We hope that you have gained valuable insights into topics related to intellectual property. Again, thank you for being part of this event, and we look forward to future engagements. Thank you.